Think about the last time you booked a hotel room or a flight.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Right. For you, it probably felt like a fairly mundane, straightforward transaction,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
You're in line for coffee, you pull out your phone, you scroll through a few options, compare some prices, and you just tap confirm.
Takes maybe, what, 3 minutes?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But behind that seemingly simple screen right beneath your fingertips, is a massive high-stakes chess game playing out in real time.
It really is.
We're talking about billions of dollars in heavy, immovable physical assets colliding head-on with lightning-fast digital ecosystems.
And that collision is wild to watch.
It is. Welcome to today's Deep Dive. Our mission today is to explore exactly how classic business strategies are done, the grand theories that built the massive hotel chains and airline empires of the 20th century are suddenly slamming into the high-speed, deeply unpredictable world of AI and digital algorithms. We're basing our conversation on a really insightful excerpt from a text called The Evolution of Strategic Management in Hospitality and Tourism.
It's a fantastic piece of research.
It genuinely opens up a whole new way of looking at the invisible systems that dictate everything from your summer vacations to your Tuesday morning business trips. So where do we start?
Well, the overarching theme of this text really comes down to a profound tension between the physical world and the digital world.
Okay.
Think about the sheer scale of the hospitality and tourism industry. It fundamentally relies on massive, immovable physical assets.
Right, the buildings themselves.
Yes, we're talking about $100 million airplanes, sprawling luxury resorts built on pristine coastlines, giant cruise ships.
Which are basically floating cities.
Exactly, floating cities. These are enormous, heavy capital investments that take years, sometimes decades, to plan, finance, and build.
Yeah, you don't just throw up a resort overnight.
You don't. But the modern reality is that those slow-moving, immovable assets now have to survive and compete in a digital ecosystem where consumer demand, market visibility, and pricing literally change by the millisecond. It's a fundamental collision of two entirely different scales of time and flexibility.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really grasp how wild this digital shift is, we have to look at how this industry used to operate.
Right, the old textbooks.
Yeah. For decades, the hospitality business was actually incredibly stable and predictable.
Very much so.
I mean, if you were the CEO of a major hotel chain or an airline in the 80s or 90s, you had a pretty solid, reliable map of how your year was going to play out.
You knew when your summer peaks were going to hit.
Exactly. You planned for your winter lulls, and you had a very clearly defined set of recognizable competitors.
You could practically set your watch by the seasonal demand cycles.
Which meant you could plan your business strategy years in advance.
And that historical stability created the perfect laboratory for classic strategic management frameworks. If you stepped foot in a business school anytime over the last 50 years, you were drilled on these tools.
Oh, I remember them. SWOT analysis.
SWOT, yes. Porter's 5 forces, the value chain. VRIO analysis, the classics. The text points out that these specific frameworks provided a rigorous analytical discipline that this industry desperately needed back then.
Because the assets were so heavy.
Right. Because hospitality is so heavily asset-intensive and tied to specific physical locations, companies needed robust frameworks to help them figure out exactly where to pour thousands of tons of concrete.
That makes sense.
And how to financially defend that specific piece of real estate over a 20 or 30-year horizon.
I want to pause you right there, actually, because we just threw out a lot of classic business jargon.
Fair enough.
Let's make sure we ground this for everyone listening. You mentioned VRIO analysis.
Right.
What exactly were these old school executives looking for when they used that?
Let's break that down. VRIO. It stands for valuable, rare, inimitable, and organized.
Okay.
In the old days, a hotel brand would look at their assets, say, a massive exclusive loyalty program or a prime piece of beachfront property in Miami, and run it through that filter.
Does this asset bring value?
Yes. Is it rare? Is it inimitable, meaning is it impossible for a competitor to easily copy it?
Right. You can't just manufacture another Miami Beach.
Exactly. And finally, is the company organized enough to capture its worth? If you hit all four, you had a sustained competitive advantage. Another major concept the text brings up is the reliance on high operating leverage.
Just to clarify for everyone, high operating leverage basically means you're dealing with massive fixed costs, like paying off the billion-dollar loan for the building itself, but very low variable cost to actually service one additional guest.
Right.
It costs a fortune to build the hotel, but it only costs a few dollars in water and soap to let someone sleep in room 302.
That structural reality dictated everything. Because of those massive fixed costs, hotel chains historically built their empires by acquiring the best real estate and enforcing absolute brand standardization.
Cookie-cutter experiences.
Yes. They wanted to guarantee that whether you walked into their lobby in Tokyo or their lobby in Chicago, the aesthetic, the bed, and the service would be utterly identical.
And airlines were doing the same thing, right?
Yeah, airlines were optimizing their massive hub-and-spoke network structures over 5 to 10-year planning horizons. The traditional value chain in this industry followed a very neat, linear, sequential path.
You market the room, the guest books it, they arrive.
They experience the stay, and you follow up to build loyalty. It was a straight line. You could analyze your costs and lock in your market position at every single step of that slow, predictable sequence.
So, translating this for you listening right now, the old textbook strategy was essentially a massive game of Monopoly.
Monopoly, that's a great way to put it.
It was all about owning the absolute best corner lot in town, building a massive physical asset on it, and keeping the brand experience perfectly consistent so people felt safe coming back. It was all about real estate, repetition, and long-term planning.
That is the baseline, yes. But the source material introduces a massive complication to that real estate strategy.
Here comes the shift.
There are structural characteristics unique to hospitality and tourism that severely amplify the limitations of those traditional slow-moving models. There are fundamental operational quirks in this industry that you simply do not deal with in traditional manufacturing or retail.
And those specific quirks are where the entire game changes.
Yeah.
Let's look at the first major hurdle the text identifies. Perishability.
Perishability, yes.
If I'm buying a pair of sneakers and they sit in a warehouse for 6 months, it really isn't a crisis. Why is hospitality so dramatically different?
Think about it this way. If you own that shoe store, an unsold pair of sneakers on a Tuesday retains its value.
Right.
You leave it on the shelf, you try to sell it on Wednesday or next week or next month, but an unsold hotel room for tonight, or an empty seat on an airplane that pushes back from the gate in 5 minutes,
It's just gone.
you cannot put that empty space in a warehouse and try to sell it tomorrow. The second that night passes or that flight takes off, the revenue potential for that specific physical asset is gone forever. It literally vanishes into thin air.
I feel that on a deeply personal level every time I try to book a flight home for Thanksgiving.
Oh, we all do.
If I look in September, the seat is $300. If I panic book the day before the flight, it's $900 because the airline knows the inventory is about to vanish and they know I'm desperate.
That dynamic right there is perishability in action. Historically, firms managed this vanishing inventory with basic seasonal forecasting.
Looking at historical data.
Yeah, they'd look back at what they sold last November to predict what they would sell this November. But the text outlines a massive paradigm shift.
Because demand isn't that simple anymore.
Not at all. Today, demand signals are wildly volatile. They're influenced by real-time shifts in social media sentiment, sudden geopolitical news, and microeconomic trends. Static, quarterly strategic planning simply cannot keep pace.
So what do they do?
Because of perishability, the industry is abandoning periodic adjustments and shifting toward continuous AI-enabled revenue optimization.
Where the machines just take over.
Exactly. Prices are literally recalibrated thousands of times a day based on predictive data.
Which brings us directly to the second unique quirk of the industry. Simultaneity.
This one is huge.
When you buy a car, it was manufactured months ago by robots and workers in a factory hundreds of miles away from the dealership where you're buying it. The production of the product and your consumption of it are totally separate events.
What's fascinating here is that in hospitality, production and consumption happen at the exact same time.
Live.
Yes. The service is being created in the exact moment you're experiencing it. The meal is being cooked as you sit at the table. The front desk agent is delivering the service live as you check in.
It's essentially a live theater performance happening 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And that means it's incredibly vulnerable to human error and operational hiccups.
Let's take that a step further. Because production and consumption are simultaneous, the service is highly sensitive to the mood of the staff, labor shortages, unexpected operational bottlenecks.
Yes, all of that. Traditional frameworks like Porter's Five Forces emphasize structural market positioning, how to block competitors from entering your market.
But they miss the human element.
They completely miss the real-time, live-action dynamics of service delivery. As the source notes, managing those simultaneous live customer experiences is becoming the central competitive battleground in modern tourism.
So let's look at the board. You have these incredibly expensive physical assets. You have product that vanishes into nothing if it isn't sold today.
Check.
And you have a service that is produced and consumed live in the moment, making it highly volatile.
Double check.
And then, right into the middle of that delicate high-wire balancing act, swings the digital wrecking ball.
The intermediary.
Enter the intermediaries, the online travel agencies, the meta-search platforms, the global review systems, and the short-term rental marketplaces. These platforms are the new, undisputed heavyweights in the ring.
Their arrival triggered one of the most colossal power shifts in modern business history.
Because they took control of the customer.
Historically, a hotel brand controlled the vast majority of its relationship with you. They held all the cards, they knew their inventory, they set the price, and you had to call the front desk or a travel agent and basically take their word for it.
Right.
But these digital intermediaries drastically reduced that information asymmetry. They gave you, the buyer, complete visibility into every available room and every competitor's price in an instant. They massively increased buyer power.
The text mentions that algorithms now control visibility.
Yeah.
How exactly does that invisible chess game work behind the scenes?
Let's look at a real-world hypothetical. Imagine a fantastic, independent boutique hotel in Austin, Texas.
Okay, love Austin.
They rely heavily on a major online travel agency, or OTA, to get eyeballs on their property. The OTA provides immense global reach, but they charge the hotel a hefty commission.
Sometimes 15 to 20%.
Easily, for every single booking. So the boutique hotel tries a classic business move. They offer a slightly cheaper, discounted rate directly on their own private website.
To avoid paying that commission and to capture the customer data directly, that makes perfect sense. Cut out the middleman.
The complication there is that the OTA's algorithm is constantly scraping the internet.
Oh, no.
The moment the algorithm detects that the hotel is undercutting the platform's price on its own website, the algorithm penalizes the hotel.
It knows
It artificially suppresses the hotel's ranking, burying it on page 10 of the search results where no consumer will ever find it. The hotel effectively ceases to exist in the digital marketplace.
That is wild.
Yeah.
The hotel bought the land, built the building, hired the staff, and washes the sheets every day. But a third-party piece of code sitting on a server halfway across the country gets to decide if a traveler even knows the building exists.
This is exactly where the text offers a brilliant critique of those classic business frameworks. Porter's Five Forces was designed for traditional linear supply chains.
Not this.
The text points out that Porter's framework completely breaks down when you enter what academics call algorithm-mediated, multi-sided platform environments.
That is quite the phrase. Let's translate that.
In conversational terms, that means you're operating in a digital arena where you're forced to cooperate with the platform to get customers, while simultaneously competing against that exact same platform to avoid getting crushed by commission fees.
And losing your direct relationship with the guest.
Exactly. The old textbooks simply don't have a neat little box for that kind of digital warfare.
And it isn't just the algorithms throwing wrenches into the old models. The text dives deeply into the concept of demand volatility and what it calls extreme nonlinear shocks.
Right, moving beyond just standard recessions.
We all know hospitality has always been sensitive to the wider economy. If there's a recession, families take fewer vacations. But recently, we aren't just seeing slow economic cycles, we're seeing massive overnight disruptions.
We're talking about global pandemics, sudden geopolitical instability, and increasingly severe climate disruptions.
Right. Think about a freak historic blizzard hitting Chicago in the middle of a major travel week.
A nightmare scenario.
If you're an airline running a rigid 5-year strategic plan based on smooth historical weather trends, a nonlinear shock like that completely shreds your playbook in a matter of hours.
That is precisely the scenario where long-range static planning fails completely. When that blizzard hits Chicago, the airline cannot wait for a quarterly executive board meeting to decide what to do.
The idiot answer now.
The source material argues that modern hospitality strategy increasingly requires continuous scenario modeling. The airline's AI systems have to instantly kick in to dynamically reroute dozens of planes in midair,
Recalculate crew availability across the country.
reprice alternative hubs, and automatically rebook thousands of stranded passengers all within seconds. Firms have to design their operational capacity to be resilient under multiple, completely different reality scenarios.
It's about using advanced analytics and AI-driven dynamic packaging to smooth out massive disruptions in real time.
Precisely.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. With all this focus on AI, aggressive algorithms, data science, and dynamic pricing, it is so easy to forget what hospitality is actually about at its core.
Human beings.
It's about human beings taking care of other human beings. And the text makes a major point about the shift toward the experience economy. As a traveler today, you probably don't just want a perfectly standardized cookie-cutter room with a generic bed and a mini fridge anymore.
No, people want a personalized, authentic, locally integrated experience.
This represents a total departure from the traditional emphasis on strict brand standardization that dominated the industry for decades.
Having a differentiated product has always mattered, but the mechanisms for achieving that differentiation are shifting. They're becoming incredibly data-driven and micro-segmented.
How so?
A hotel might use your digital footprint to dynamically configure your room preferences, your dining recommendations, and your local itinerary before you even arrive.
That sounds amazing as a guest.
It is, but delivering that elevated, deeply personalized experience puts a staggering amount of pressure on the frontline employees.
Absolutely, because as we established with the concept of simultaneity, the industry is intensely labor-driven. You can deploy the most sophisticated pricing algorithm in the world, but if the person greeting you at the front desk is burnt out, exhausted, and visibly stressed,
Your entire vacation experience is ruined.
yeah,
Traditional business strategy often viewed human resources simply as an operational cost to be minimized. But modern hospitality competition requires a totally different approach.
you can't just cut staff and expect the same reviews.
Exactly. It requires granular workforce data and predictive scheduling to match that volatile demand we talked about. Crucially, it requires a deep understanding of human-machine collaboration.
So not humans versus machines, but working together.
Yes. The modern strategist has to figure out how AI and digital tools can take over the tedious, repetitive background tasks, thereby freeing up the human staff to focus entirely on the high-value, empathetic interactions that guests actually crave.
AI handles the back-end logistics so the human can actually be hospitable.
Beautifully said.
So what does this all mean? We've looked at massive physical assets, vanishing daily inventory, real-time live service, algorithm-controlled visibility, crazy unpredictable shocks, and a consumer demand for deeply personalized human experiences.
It's a lot to balance.
Do we just take the old business textbooks, the SWOT analyses, and the value chains and throw them in the trash?
The answer from the text is a definitive, emphatic no.
Okay, good. The business school grads can breathe a sigh of relief.
They can. The fundamental economics of the hospitality industry have not magically vanished just because we carry smartphones. The industry is still defined by high operating leverage and immovable capacity constraints.
The massive capital costs of securing real estate and building a resort are still very real.
You absolutely still need those classical frameworks to think clearly about your underlying cost structures,
Yeah.
your asset allocation, and your structural market positioning.
So it isn't about tossing out the old rules. It's about layering a massive high-speed digital engine on top of them.
Exactly.
The text calls it the ultimate synthesis for the hospitality strategist of the future. You have to operate directly at the intersection of classical strategic theory, advanced data science, and complex systems thinking.
That sets the stage for a new paradigm. The classical frameworks, your Porter's five forces and your VRIO analyses, they still provide the why.
Right.
They provide the structural logic and help a company define where its true underlying competitive advantage lies in the physical world. But the STEM-enabled tools, the AI, the data science, the predictive analytics, they provide the how fast and how precisely.
So they work together.
They give the firm the dynamic capability and real-time sensing required to survive the daily warfare of an algorithmic world. You cannot succeed with just one or the other. You need the structural grounding of classic strategy, inextricably linked with the agility of digital adaptation.
That perfectly sums up the mission of our deep dive today. The next time you're scrolling through an online booking site on your phone, watching prices magically fluctuate, and agonizing over user ratings, you'll know exactly what you're looking at.
You're not just booking a bed for the night.
You're witnessing a perfectly balanced collision between heavy, brick-and-mortar physical reality and lightning-fast digital adaptation. You're watching decades of old-school business strategy desperately trying to keep up with the ruthless speed of an AI-driven marketplace.
It truly is a remarkable industry to observe from the inside right now, and it leaves me with a thought that builds on what the text discussed regarding algorithmic visibility and the rising demand for experience-centric travel.
Let's hear it.
We established that right now, platform algorithms essentially dictate whether a hotel or resort even exists in the eyes of the consumer.
Right. If you aren't visible on the booking platform, you're invisible to the world.
And we know that AI is orchestrating all the dynamic pricing behind the scenes. But if travelers are increasingly burned out by screens and constantly seeking the ultimate, authentic, personalized escape,
Yeah.
it makes you wonder about the future of high-end travel. If algorithms control everything, will the ultimate luxury travel experience of the future be finding a destination that is entirely, deliberately disconnected from the digital ecosystem?
Oh, wow.
Could we see the rise of completely off-the-grid analog hospitality that rebels against the major platforms by flat-out refusing to exist on the algorithms at all?
Now, that is a fascinating scenario to picture. A five-star resort that you literally cannot find on a search engine, where the absolute height of luxury is simply not being tracked by an algorithm.
Exactly.
Something to definitely think about the next time you try to genuinely unplug on vacation. Thank you for joining us on this exploration, and remember to keep questioning the invisible systems, algorithms, and strategies operating all around you. Catch you on the next deep dive.